Every year, moving trucks pull out of certain states in numbers that are hard to ignore. Not a trickle, not a seasonal shift, a sustained, documented, statistically undeniable exodus of people who looked at where they were living, did the math, and decided somewhere else made more sense. And here is the one truth they all figured out. It is not always about weather. It is not always about politics, though that plays a role. It is not even always about crime, or schools, or culture. The truth that keeps showing up in the data, in the moving company reports, in the census numbers, in the conversations people have when they finally leave, is this. We are going to go through 10 states that are losing residents faster than they are gaining them, talk about what is driving the departures, and be honest about what those states still have going for them, because no state is entirely without value. But we are also going to be straight about why the people leaving are not wrong. Subscribe if you want an honest analysis of where America is actually moving and why. Let us get into it. Number 10. Connecticut. Connecticut is one of the wealthiest states in the country by median household income. It has excellent universities, beautiful coastal towns, and proximity to both New York City and Boston. On paper, it should be a place people are fighting to get into. Instead, it has been losing residents steadily for years. The core issue in Connecticut is a mismatch that has been building for decades. The state has some of the highest property taxes in the entire country. The cost of living is significantly above the national average. And the job market, outside of finance and insurance sectors concentrated in Fairfield County, has not generated the kind of broad economic opportunity that justifies what it costs to live there. Connecticut's population peaked around 2012 and has been declining or stagnant since. Young people leave after college and do not come back at the rates needed to replace the population aging out. Retirees who built their wealth in Connecticut are cashing out of expensive homes and moving to states with lower tax burdens and warmer climates. And the middle-income families caught in between are finding that the Connecticut lifestyle they were promised requires an income that keeps getting further out of reach. The pension crisis facing Connecticut municipalities is real and serious. Unfunded liabilities have put pressure on local budgets that ultimately flows back to property tax bills. People are doing the math, and the math is not working in Connecticut's favor. Number 9. Illinois. Illinois has been losing residents for nearly a decade in a row. The population decline here is not a blip or a pandemic anomaly. It is a pattern with deep structural roots that have not been meaningfully addressed. The most obvious driver is Chicago's cost and the state's broader fiscal mess. Illinois carries one of the worst pension funding crises of any state in America. Unfunded pension obligations run into the hundreds of billions of dollars. That debt does not sit quietly in a government spreadsheet. It shows up in property tax rates that are among the highest in the country, in service cuts, in municipal bankruptcies like the one that consumed Rockford's neighboring communities, and in a business environment that has pushed companies and jobs towards states with more stable finances. Outside Chicago, large parts of Illinois are experiencing significant economic stress. Cities like Peoria, Rockford, and Decatur have lost population and economic vitality as manufacturing declined and nothing arrived to replace it at the same scale. The rural areas of southern Illinois are among the most economically distressed in the Midwest. Number 8. Louisiana. Louisiana's population loss is driven by a combination of factors that overlap in complicated ways. Natural disasters, economic stagnation, crime, and a cost of living that is not as low as people expect given the level of public investment and service quality they receive in return. Hurricane Katrina, in 2005, displaced hundreds of thousands of people from the New Orleans metro, and while many returned, the long-term demographic effects of that event are still visible in the data. More recently, a series of hurricanes and severe weather events have continued to push residents, particularly in coastal and low-lying areas, to reconsider whether Louisiana is where they want to build their lives. The violent crime rate in Louisiana is among the highest of any state in the country. New Orleans consistently appears near the top of lists measuring violent crime per capita. Baton Rouge faces similar challenges. For families with choices, crime statistics factor heavily into decisions about where to raise children. What Louisiana has, that nowhere else in America has, is its culture. The food, the music, the Mardi Gras tradition, the unique blend of French, African, Spanish, and American influences that created something genuinely unlike anything else in the country. New Orleans is one of a kind in the most literal sense, but culture alone cannot pay flood insurance premiums or rebuild a neighborhood after a storm. And increasingly, the people who love Louisiana most deeply are finding that love is not enough to make the math work. Number 7. Mississippi. Mississippi ranks last or near last in almost every positive quality of life metric measured at the state level. Median household income, educational attainment, health outcomes, life expectancy, infrastructure quality. The state has been at the bottom of these lists for so long that the position feels structural rather than circumstantial. Population decline in Mississippi is driven primarily by outmigration of working-age residents, particularly young people, who leave for opportunities in Atlanta, Houston, Nashville, and other regional hubs that offer better wages and more career options. The brain drain in Mississippi is severe and self-reinforcing. When educated young people leave, the tax base narrows, services decline, opportunities shrink, and the next generation has even more reason to leave. The Jackson water crisis highlighted infrastructure challenges that go beyond one city. Mississippi's public systems have been underfunded for so long that catching up requires resources the state has struggled to generate. Federal funding has helped in some areas, but the gap between need and capacity remains significant. Mississippi also has genuine poverty concentrated in the Delta region that represents one of the most persistent economic challenges in the American South. Communities there have been losing population for generations as agricultural mechanization eliminated the labor that once sustained them. Number 6. West Virginia. West Virginia has been losing population for decades, and the trajectory has not reversed. The state has the oldest median age in the country, a direct result of young people leaving and not being replaced. The coal industry that defined West Virginia's economy for generations has been in long-term decline, and the transition to alternative economic foundations has been painful and incomplete. The opioid crisis hit West Virginia harder than any other state in America. Overdose death rates here have been the highest in the country for years. The social and economic damage from that crisis runs through every community in the state, affecting workforce participation, family stability, local government capacity, and the overall sense of whether things are getting better or worse. Infrastructure in West Virginia reflects decades of limited investment. Roads, broadband access, water systems, and public facilities in many parts of the state are significantly below what residents in most other states experience as standard. Attracting the remote workers and new businesses that could diversify the economy is harder when the physical infrastructure to support them is not reliably in place. Number 5. Alaska. Alaska is losing residents, and the reasons are specific to the unique circumstances of living at the top of the world. The cost of living in Alaska is among the highest in the country because almost everything has to be shipped in over enormous distances. Groceries, fuel, building materials, consumer goods. The logistics of supply in Alaska add a cost premium to daily life that accumulates into real financial pressure over years. The job market in Alaska is heavily dependent on oil production, fishing, and government employment. Oil revenue has funded an extraordinary amount of Alaska's public services and the permanent fund dividend that pays every Alaska resident an annual check. But oil prices fluctuate, and the long-term trajectory of fossil fuel dependence creates uncertainty about Alaska's fiscal future that residents are increasingly factoring into their decisions. The isolation is not just geographic. Mental health challenges associated with long dark winters, distance from family and wider social networks, and the physical demands of life in extreme conditions contribute to departure rates, particularly among younger residents who arrived with adventure in mind and found the reality more demanding than the idea. Number 4. Hawaii. Hawaii is the hardest state to leave emotionally and one of the most logical states to leave financially. The paradise that draws millions of tourists every year is also a place where residents are increasingly unable to afford to stay. The cost of living in Hawaii is the highest of any state in the country. Housing prices in Honolulu are among the most extreme of any American city. The median home price in Hawaii is well above $800,000. Rent for a modest apartment in Honolulu can easily exceed $2,500 a month for a one-bedroom. Groceries, utilities, and everyday expenses run significantly above mainland levels because of the same island supply chain economics that affect Alaska, just with better weather. The irony of Hawaii's situation is that the very things making it expensive, the beauty, the climate, the desirability, are the things that make it painful to leave. People who grew up in Hawaii and moved to the mainland consistently describe a grief about leaving that does not fully resolve. You can find cheaper housing in Phoenix. You cannot find what Hawaii actually is anywhere else on Earth. Number 3. California. California's outmigration has been one of the dominant domestic migration stories of the past decade. The state that represented the American dream for most of the 20th century has been exporting residents to Texas, Arizona, Nevada, Florida, and Idaho in numbers that have genuinely shifted those states' demographics and politics. The reasons are layered, but they converge on the same core truth. California is extraordinarily expensive, and the quality of life it delivers, in return for that cost, has been deteriorating in ways that residents cannot ignore. Housing affordability in California is a crisis in the clinical sense of the word. The median home price statewide exceeds $700,000. In the Bay Area and coastal Los Angeles, the numbers go far beyond that. The teacher who cannot afford to live in the city where they work, the firefighter commuting 2 hours each way, the young professional who earns 6 figures and still cannot save for a down payment. These are not edge cases, they are normal California stories now. The homelessness crisis is visible in every major California city in ways that have genuinely changed the experience of public space. Fires, drought, and the long-term consequences of climate change are real and pressing concerns in a state that has burned in ways that destroyed entire communities. And the tax burden, while funding substantial public services, is among the highest in the nation. Number 2. New York. New York State has been losing residents for years, and the story is bigger than just New York City, though the city drives much of it. The combination of high taxes, high housing costs, and a cost of living that demands a high income just to maintain a modest standard of living has been pushing residents towards states where the same money creates a fundamentally different life. New York City remains one of the great cities of the world. The density of opportunity, culture, finance, food, and human experience compressed into those 5 boroughs is unmatched in America. But that density comes at a price that has become a filter. New York increasingly works well for the very wealthy and poorly for everyone else trying to build a middle-class life there. Upstate New York tells a different story that gets less attention. Cities like Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, and Utica have been losing population for decades as the industrial economy that built them faded and did not fully recover. These are cities with beautiful architecture, strong cultural institutions, and dramatically lower costs than the city downstate. But they struggle to attract the investment and migration that would create the momentum needed to reverse their trajectories. The tax environment in New York is among the most demanding in the country at every level: state, city, county, and property. Retirees in particular have been leaving in large numbers, taking their assets and their spending to Florida, the Carolinas, and other lower tax states. That outflow of wealth compounds the fiscal pressure that makes the tax burden necessary in the first place. Number 1. New Jersey. New Jersey tops this list because it combines almost every factor driving population loss in one dense, expensive package. Highest property taxes in the country. Cost of living significantly above the national average. a state income tax rate that climbs steeply, housing prices that reflect the pressure of proximity to New York City and Philadelphia without offering the benefits of actually being in those cities. New Jersey has been losing residents to Florida, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Texas in numbers that state officials have publicly acknowledged as a serious concern. The people leaving tend to be retirees cashing out of expensive homes and moving somewhere their money lasts longer, and middle-income families who cannot afford the full cost of New Jersey and are discovering that similar quality of life is achievable elsewhere for significantly less. The irony is that New Jersey has real things going for it. The transit infrastructure connecting it to New York and Philadelphia is genuine and valuable. The shore towns are beloved. The diversity of the state's population is a cultural asset. The school systems in many parts of the state are excellent, and the food, quietly, is extraordinary. But excellent schools and good pizza do not offset property tax bills that regularly exceed $15,000 to $20,000 a year for modest homes. And when residents do the math and realize that the same tax burden applied to a home in a lower-cost state would fund a genuinely different quality of life, many of them stop doing hypothetical math and start calling moving companies,